Good evening, everyone. My name is William Iannuzzi. I'm president of the Board of Education. Um, Colleagues, can I get a motion and second to reconvene the public session of the meeting?
So moved Castellano Minaya.
Second, Lewis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we get into the agenda of the meeting, New Rochelle and our district lost. We had a very big loss this over the weekend with one of our teachers at Albert Leonard Middle School, Miss Colleen O'Reilly. Um, I didn't have the chance to know Miss O'Reilly. I was a student at Albert Leonard. I think I just missed her before I graduated. But from seeing on Facebook and talking to students that attend Albert Leonard and people that work there, she was such a beloved teacher that kids and the youth that were a big part of her life. She was a teacher at Albert Leonard for over 15 years, history and a model UN club. And, one of my former teachers at Albert Leonard posted something about her, and I had the chance to look at the comments and what everyone was writing and how she was just an amazing and passionate and dedicated teacher. And we really, it's a big loss to our family that we have here in the city school district of New Rochelle.
Through the superintendent and the trustees, just want to thank everybody for your moment of silence for our colleague. Can't hear me? For a moment of silence for a colleague. Is that any better? Okay. It is very rare that you find a gem who is appreciated by everyone with whom they work and for whom they work. Miss O'Reilly was one of those gems, and the news of her passing rocked a community larger than just Albert Leonard. It rocked a lot of New Rochelle. And some people are not easily replaced. This is one of those moments where we have someone who is not easily replaced. Miss O'Reilly's passing also reminds me to put things into perspective. It reminds me that the work that we do on a daily basis is in service to children. It reminds me that the work that we do needs to make not only the people with and for whom we work proud, but also our family proud. So with that, Mr. President, I want to say to all of my colleagues at Albert Leonard, to all of my students at Albert Leonard, and to all of my students who are at New Rochelle High School who may have had Miss O'Reilly in the past, please remember her for who she was. Please remember her for the joy that she brought into your life and into your learning and into your work. And please be sure to hold her memory in your everyday interactions so that we hold on tight to each other. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, can we all please bow our heads for a moment of silence? Thank you. I'm going to move into the rest of the meeting, starting with Board of Education announcements. Do any of my colleagues have any announcements they would like to make? Yeah. You have to push hard. There you go.
It's just been a busy time of year at the end of the year for all the year-end celebrations. Last week, I attended the year-end visual art celebration at the high school. was amazing to see the artwork of our PAVE students and of our other students at our museum there. But I just encourage everyone to keep an eye out for all of the various events that are happening in the arts and performing arts, as well as all the other ways that we celebrate our students. It's just amazing to see their work.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Ms. Williams, then, oh, Ms. Clayton, this Ms. Williams?
Okay, now it's great. I just want to shout out a big congratulations to the high school Diego Gomez Scholars. I was present at their wonderful event, and it highlighted the growth of these students and their big journeys into college. And I think this year was the 10th anniversary. So just a big shout out to that organization for showing the love to the Latino students at the high school.
Ms. Williams?
Thank you. Thank you. And good evening, New Rochelle. It's a pleasure to be here again with you. And I want to say congratulations to Dr. Camille Edwards Thomas, the principal of Albert Leonard Middle School. She earned her doctorate. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us. And also, I didn't mention this last time, but on Monday, May the 27th, Memorial Day, I attended the American Legion Post 8 Memorial Day celebration. And I was honored and I was in awe to listen to an oration from our very own Nia Gooden, New Rochelle High School student, who was the 2024 American Legion Oratorical Contest champion. And she spoke on the First Amendment, and also wish everybody a happy Flag Day on Friday, June the 14th. Flag Day commemorates the adoption of the flag for the United States. And also, happy Father's Day this Sunday, June the 16th. And also, we won't be in school on Wednesday in honor of Juneteenth. Juneteenth officially, Juneteenth National Independence Day, is a federal holiday in the United States. It is celebrated annually on June the 19th to commemorate the ending of slavery in the United States. So everyone in the United States is free. The name Juneteenth comes from the word June, which is the month that this proclamation was made, and 19th. So it's June 19th. So on June the 19th in 1865, Major General Gordon Granger ordered the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in Texas at the end of the American Civil War. So with that proclamation, he told everyone that everyone was free. So there were actually individuals who were enslaved and they were emancipated, but people didn't tell them that they were emancipated. So 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 1st, 1863, 2 years later, Major General Gordon Granger made it known that everyone is free in the United States, and it was the end of slavery in the United States. Have a great Juneteenth. Have a great June. And congratulations to all of the families and all of our students for your accomplishments. And also to all of the faculty and staff in the City School District of New Rochelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I had the pleasure to attend several events over the past couple weeks. First with the Project Search graduation, which was an amazing celebration of 5 students who graduated from the Project Search program with Montefiore Hospital. It's an amazing program. We're actually the only district in Westchester County that has it, and it's a national, global program. And 85% of the students that attend Project Search actually graduate with a job. And it's amazing because kids with special needs, their national statistic is only 25% will graduate and have a job ready for them. So it's just amazing to see a program like this in our district. I also had the pleasure to serve as the scholarship committee chair for the New Rochelle Council of Community Services. We were lucky enough to give 3 New Rochelle High School juniors an award. Actually, our first place winner with $1,000 was a Huguenot Academy student, and that was the first time a scholarship went to a Huguenot Academy student, and that was really nice to see. I was also at both senior award ceremonies on Friday morning and Monday night. My colleagues Adina Barrios Brooks and Makeda Lewis were there as well. Um, Overall, and I was doing the math in my head, I didn't get the number from anyone. I think over $150,000 worth of scholarships were handed out to hundreds of students, which was really amazing to see. And then yesterday was also just a great event. If you didn't see the News 12 coverage, we named the weight room after Jesse Arnell, who was an alumni of New Rochelle High School, I believe 1951. Yes, graduated, and his family left a sizable endowment for scholarships for athletes at New Rochelle High School. So it was amazing to see they gave the first recipient, Mia Torres, a $10,000 scholarship last night, which was amazing to see. So it's really exciting things happening in our district. I just want to say all the graduations coming up. Congratulations to all. And if you're celebrating, happy Pride Month. Anybody else? All right,
I'll
seeing
be
no
very,
more.
very quick.
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight that I ended up attending, watching Chicago at Albert Leonard. And I will say that Broadway has nothing on our kids. Like, it was absolutely phenomenal. Not just even those that were on stage, behind stage, like the costumes, the decor. I mean, everything was hands down was absolutely phenomenal. So I'm very, very proud for one to be from Albert Leonard, but proud that our district in general is producing such like high caliber work. They obviously worked tremendously hard to pull this off, and it was seamless. It was seamless, and I'm very, very proud of everyone. And thank you to our staff and faculty that were behind the scenes, like making it happen. So I know it doesn't happen without them either. So. Oh, sorry, I'm done. I'm done.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, Dr. Reynolds, I'll throw it over to you for the superintendent's update.
Thank you very much, President Iannuzzi. Good evening to all of our persons who are sitting here live, and for those of us who are watching at home or watching in the future, I wish you a good evening. The month of June is one that is exceptional in the school setting. We have started our graduation season, particularly with Project Search, and looking forward to our first moving up ceremony that will be taking place on Friday at Jefferson School. I'm ever impressed with the productivity of our students. Our students, I understand for some of them, they may not, and a very few, may not be excited that schools are coming to an end, because sometimes this is the most normalized part of their day. It's where they can predict what's going to happen next. But for the grand majority of our students, they are excited at the prospect of what's happening this summer. So I'm going to try to join them in that excitement. So as Trustee Williams must have bugged my computer, please be reminded that we are going to celebrate fathers on Father's Day, and on Sunday on Father's Day, and on Friday we do celebrate Flag Day. So thank you, Trustee Williams. Also, I wanted to share some information about some school closings and some information, and hopefully will help to educate the public a little bit about why our school calendar is the way that it is. So the City School District of New Rochelle will be closed, of course, on Wednesday, June 19th in observance of Juneteenth Day. Some community members may wonder, why not just end school a little bit earlier than what's on the calendar? Or why are all of the half days on the calendar at the end of the year. It's important to know that New York State education laws and regulations require that a district annually must offer a minimum of 900 minutes of in-seat instruction for students in kindergarten through grade 6, and a minimum of 990 in-seat instructional minutes for students in grades 7 through 12. In addition, there's a minimum requirement of 180 days of school, exclusive of legal holidays and weekend days, that must occur during a school term. A maximum of 4 superintendent's conference days without students being in session are specifically designed for the purpose of teacher professional development, and those are allowed towards the count in our annual yearly day count. Now, we must keep in mind that for every day less than 180 days of instruction provided by a district, that district's financial apportionment from the state will be reduced by 1/180th of what we get annually. If the district is closed, that amount will equate to 1/180th of what every school gets. And if there's one school that's closed for less than 180 days, then it's by the amount apported to that school. In our district, that is approximately a minimum, because it also depends on how many students are in a particular school. It is a minimum of $27,000 per school per day that will be withheld from our funds if we do not have school for the 900 or 990 minutes or for the 180 days. While there is a minimum number of days required by NYSED, there is a maximum number of days teachers are required to work, which is determined by a contract, and every school system in New York State has a different contract. Every New York State school district's calendar must be negotiated annually with the teacher union of that jurisdiction. Each teacher's contract in New York State dictates between 180 and 187 days of school, which is in compliance with the New York State Department of Education regulations and requirements, depending on how many superintendent's conference days they have and how many what we call snow days are also afforded in the district's calendar. Historically, the New Rochelle School District Federation of United School Employees have worked between 180 and 181 days. Okay, she's nodding. I just want to be sure that I'm not misrepresenting. Locally in this region, the average is anywhere between 180 and 185 days. Also, the last 3 days of school, being calendared as half days, have been prescribed by the teacher's contract since the 2005-2006 school year. And for decades prior to that, the last 2 days were half days. Finally, we cannot end the school year earlier in June, as schools must be in session for the entirety of the Regents' administration and the Regents' rating days in June, established annually by the Board of Regents and by New York State regulation. So we can't save all of our superintendent's conference days until the end of the year because they cannot interfere with the Regents' administration or with the Regents' ratings. As such, even though the testing and rating of Regents only apply to secondary schools, there is no district that I'm familiar with that has a different calendar for their elementary teachers than their secondary teachers. As prescribed by the teacher contract, please be reminded that all schools will have a half day on Monday, June 24th, Tuesday, June 25th, and Wednesday, June 26th. June 26th is the official last day of school. And with that, Mr. President, I relinquish the microphone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds. Next up on the agenda are discussion items, first being the code of conduct. So, Dr. Reynolds, I'll throw it back over to you to set the stage. Yeah.
To the board president, President Iannuzzi, Vice President Barrios Brooks, and to our board trustees, good evening. It is a pleasure to be with you this evening to present to you at your request additional information as it relates to the process in creating our updated code of conduct. Keep in mind that at our last meeting, our Student Support Services Department, under the leadership of Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services, Dr. Gail Joyner, expressed to you and to the community that we have undertaken the task of redesigning our code of conduct to better meet the needs of our students in our community, in our schools. As such, and as is required by law, the code of conduct must be open for public comment prior to it being adopted for a calendar period of 30 calendar days. The code of conduct is currently represented on our district website, where you can review it. And the draft code of conduct is currently represented on our website, where you can review it and provide to us any feedback that you would deem necessary or appropriate, so that we can take it into consideration to make continued edits to the code. At the request of the Board of Education, based on our last meeting, we wanted to detail for the community the changes between our current code of conduct, which will expire at the end of this school year, and the proposed draft of the code of conduct, which we hope will be adopted by the board to begin our new school year. With that, Dr. Joyner and her team have prepared a presentation to walk us through some of the nuanced changes from one code of conduct to the other. Please keep in mind that tonight's presentation is just for function purposes only. It is not an in-depth study of the code of conduct. After the code is adopted by the board, then we will bring that study to the community at a future date, at a future board meeting in the beginning of the school year. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Joyner so that she can walk us through the code.
Thank you. So I'm just going to say good evening to everybody and jump right in. So at the previous meeting on May 30th, our team shared an update of the Code of Conduct journey. Mary Breslin is co-presenting with me tonight. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. On May 30th. And we talked about, yes, we spoke about the aesthetic. Yes, I don't have to lean in. Thank you. Yeah, how about it? And content changes. So this evening's area of focus will include an overview of the redesign of the Code of Conduct and a crosswalk of the two documents and next steps. So as we all know, setting the stage, we speak to our mission, vision, equity vision statement, and core beliefs, which I will speak to briefly on the next slide, as we mentioned those as our compass points. So I'm going to just go over this slide quickly, and then I'm going to go through the crosswalk piece by piece with the additional slides. So as we know, the Code of Conduct is a set of expected behaviors and practices that help us to cultivate a welcoming and affirming environment. It serves as a guide to and provides the tools for helping students to understand and appreciate the norms of expected behaviors. That is our purpose statement. We are committed to ensuring a fair and equitable experience for every student. To that end, we redesigned the Code of Conduct to provide an easier entry point for parents, guardians, and caregivers, and to be aware of how student behavior is addressed equitably across our schools. Our compass points are front and center in this document, and anyone who interacts will become familiar with our mission, vision, and equity statements, core beliefs, and more importantly, how they align to our strategic plan. The DASA portion of this document has been elevated, and I'll speak to that later, and is now prominent in the document. And we also added the Crown Act from the legislation that came about in 2019, and a section titled Getting Help Guide for Students. To provide an additional layer of support. We also reframed the content to focus on promoting positive behavior, and with a strong focus, we added a civility statement in the rights, responsibilities, and expectations of stakeholders section. Thank you. So we shared with you at the previous meeting, the original, and now the revised version. So we are happy to unveil it As Dr. Reynolds mentioned, it is up for public comment in both English and Spanish, so please feel free, and we thank you for those that have already provided feedback. We appreciate it and look forward to additional comments. So as we go through this crosswalk, I'm going to go down the original side first and just speak to what was there. Then I will jump over to the revised side, and everything that you see bolded on the revised side has been added to the document. Those are the only additions to the document, so it's really easy to follow. So if you start by going on page 3, and if you don't have a copy, there are copies of both versions in the lobby, and they're also both available on our district website if you would like to follow along at home. But really simply, the table of contents is still on page 3. What we did is we added subheadings, so it's not just one topic, but now there are subheadings that you will be able to reference. The equity and continuous improvement statement, which used to be on page 5, was replaced with the mission vision, and then the rights and responsibilities of the school community, students' rights and responsibilities, that was on page 8 to 11. I'll explain where it is. So now as we jump over to the right side where it says revised, our mission, vision, equity vision, core beliefs, and alignment to the strategic plan is now on page 6 of this document. Still, that information, pages 8 to 11, the rights, responsibilities, and expectations of stakeholders, is there. The only thing that we added to that section is a civility statement. And I'm going to let you take a moment to take a look at the civility statement, because this is a new statement that was added. And again, as I explained at the previous meeting, the committee presented it to the cabinet. The cabinet provided feedback, we adjusted it, and this is the final statement. Oh, I can read it. Okay. The City School District of New Rochelle intends to foster a culture and practice of civility in all schools, school-related settings, communications, and operations. Disruptive, volatile, hostile, aggressive, mean-spirited, and maligning communications or actions are not part of that culture and practice, nor are other forms of inappropriate interactions. It is the expectation of the Board of Education and district leadership that mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct among district employees, families, students, and visitors are cultivated at all times when engaging with one another within our school district and in the greater community. So that is the civility statement that you will now find at the beginning of page 8. In addition, as I said, dress code, page 12, I'll talk about that. The prohibited conduct was on 12 to 16. The reporting violations of the code and dignity for all students was on page 17. And the DASA coordinators used to be listed on page 18. The changes that the committee recommended and were accepted thus far, getting help is on page 12. That's a new section that was added. And within that section, the Dignity for All Students Act was elevated. It used to be on page 17. We moved it up to page 12. As I mentioned before, the Crown Act was an addition, and the dress code is mentioned there. The Guide for Students is a new page that we created. It really walks students through how to get help if they need support with academics, if they're going through something in school, who they should go to and how they should get there. Reporting violations of the Code of Conduct is now on pages 14 and 15. And the prohibited conduct section is pages 16 through 19. The difference is the DASA coordinators will not be listed in the code of conduct, but they will be posted in each school. On the school website, on the district website, it will also be posted in the main office and main areas of each building, i.e. the library, the gym, the cafeteria, so that students have access to know who their dignity coordinators are. Next piece is the tiers of interventions, page 6. It just looks slightly different. It's the same information. We now call it behavior interventions and response, and you will find it on page 19, and that is the MTSS framework. And that visual is the thing that we changed, but the information remains the same because MTSS, the process, is identical in both documents. So this table, as I said, has been revised to reflect a restorative approach and using effective statements, questions, or other restorative practices. Teachers have the opportunity to reteach expectations or give positive directives. They are generally addressed by the classroom teacher and/or support staff. That's the level 1. For level 4 is where we provide wraparound services and perhaps a conference to provide support for the student and family so that we can create a plan for the student to return to school and be reintegrated into the community. That's a piece that we added because we saw that that was missing from a student coming back from long-term suspension. We wanted an opportunity to reintegrate them back into the community. So as I mentioned, levels of support used to be on page 19 to 21. Levels of interventions used to be consequences for elementary, middle, and high school, pages 21 to 27. The changes are as follows. Levels of responses are now on page 20, and the behavior violations and level of response is for students, in grades 3 to 12, and is located on pages 21 to 26. And we added the section expectations to consider for pre-K to 2 on page 27. So that is a piece that was added. And we added that because the committee took into consideration the importance of the challenge in development of students in early elementary grade bands. So we know that young children develop differently, and we are not going to hold them accountable to this document in the same way. So we will take that into consideration when we're offering any consequences if needed. Lastly, but certainly not least, this section didn't change very much. It's more page numbers than anything else. The removal of students and suspension used to be on pages 28 to 38. The publication, distribution, training, and review, page 39, and definitions, page 39 to 41. The changes, as you can see on the revised section, are as follows. So these, the removal of a student and suspension is now on pages 28 to 36. We did add a short-term suspension graphic on page 29 that wasn't there before, so that people are very familiar with the process, including our staff when using it. And we also added a sentence to long-term suspension. It's bolded in the document as well, where it said tutoring must begin on day 6. That's located on page 30. And we put the dress code in the document twice. So it's on page 12 and it's also on page 36. We re-emphasized it because that's a hot topic and it's very important to people. So we wanted it to be re-emphasized under prohibited conduct as well as on page 12. And last but certainly not least, the terms, definitions, and glossary of terms is what we are now calling what used to be titled definitions, and we have inserted those as well. So next steps, this document will be translated into multiple languages: Spanish, Arabic, Urdu, and Haitian Creole. We will create a summary of the code of conduct to share with students and families. The complete code of conduct will be posted on the district and school websites, and the rollout of the code of conduct is a critical piece of the work, as I mentioned before, so that all stakeholders become familiar with the document. We will facilitate professional learning for district administrators and new staff in July and August during administrators retreat and new staff orientation. In September, schools will teach the code of conduct lessons to students so that they become familiar with the document. The lessons should be revisited in January upon return from winter break or prior to break whenever the school deems appropriate. The Code of Conduct Committee will continue to meet and elicit feedback from stakeholders so that we can make any warranted changes for the following school year. In addition, this summer, some members of the Code of Conduct Committee will join the Behavioral Committee and SEL Committee to support the development of the MTSS Behavioral and SEL framework. The committee will identify and provide resources to schools to support various interventions. Again, the public review and comment is up, it's posted, so it's available. Comments can be sent to feedback@nredlearn.org. And again, it's up in both English and Spanish. And we welcome your comments. The Code of Conduct members, excuse me, I say thank you again to the members of FUSE, ANS, our parents and subcommittee members for your unwavering commitment to collaborate to co-design a code of conduct that is caring with accountability. Mary Breslin, I'm going to shout her out again. She's a member of our committee, so thank you for all that you do. But I acknowledge the whole committee and let them know that they are appreciated for going above and beyond to complete this document. And in closing, I always want to remind everyone that the book, Powerful Student Care, realigns the conversation from a focus on all learners to a focus on each student. It refers to each learner as distinctive and irreplaceable and reminds us of the importance of focusing on fixing systems and not kids. This revised code of conduct will help us continue to cultivate a welcome and affirming environment, but we are not done. The work continues, and we look forward to rolling out the new code of conduct. We still need all hands on deck. So I say thank you, and I open the floor for questions and discussions. I was told I was the only thing standing between people going home and to numbers.
Thank you,
just
Dr.
teasing.
Joyner. Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions? Ms. Brooks?
First of all, thank you for this document, which is gorgeous and chock full of a lot of information. And I look forward to some bedtime reading over the next month or so to dive into it. But I had a general question, and in a way, the civility statement piqued it for me, but there's lots of instances in here where we talk about our expectations of the adults, but understanding how those are affirmed. And I think how community members and students in particular can provide feedback so that if those behaviors should be redirected, how that should happen somewhere in the document would be, I think, helpful, because I know my student at home, I check in once in a while and ask, and she says, well, I don't know if the adult who did this thing understands how it felt. They might not have thought they were yelling, but actually it would have probably fallen under violation of the civility statement. How can a student do that in a way that is provides that feedback to the adults that are around them or other colleagues or other folks, and where that might be indicated in this
I
code?
think that when we take a look at this document as a community, meaning the administrators will go over it in August at the retreat, and we have an opportunity to begin to go through it, because again, they haven't gone through it the way that we are tonight. They will read that statement, and we will process that statement together as a committee, right? And as a group of administrators. And what does this mean? And what might this look like in our schools and in our parent meetings and in our gatherings and our different locations? So we're going to process that and have some conversations about what that may look like. And I defer to my boss.
Thank you very much, Vice President Barrios Brooks, for that question. A part of the Code of Conduct also hopes to build a level of acceptance of responsibility, but more so a level of protection for those who are going to advocate for themselves whenever there is a feeling of slight, wrong, or disrespect. So we do understand, and we don't ever hope to put that amount of pressure on, like a 5 or 6 year old to say, I don't like the way my teacher spoke to me, or directly say that to the adult. But a part of what we want to start doing in our trainings, and keep in mind that we shared at the last meeting, that we're going to have trainings twice and reminders twice a year for our adults as well as for our students. We want to refer people to the reporting violations of Code of Conduct in case they don't feel secure and safe enough to have that conversation one-on-one with an adult or with another individual.
That's super helpful. Thank you. And I think the reason, let me just be clear, I would hate for anything that we write in this to be seen as empty words, because there's not really a feedback mechanism. So I think that's just a really important piece. I would hate to see the work of this committee not be fully realized. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other of my colleagues have any questions or comments?
Just a thought. And I know that dress codes have been a hot topic even when I was in school. I don't think it's gonna ever not be a hot topic. And wondering, as you guys take the time to think about this and the words that you're using, if, again, the students will read this and be like, okay, I get what they're trying to tell me. I could think of examples or and be able to reference it versus saying I don't know what this means, so I'm just gonna do what I want anyway. And then they'll tell me if I'm wrong and they'll tell me if I'm right. And I also we want space in that because things are gonna grow and evolve, and so we need the latitude for that to happen. But just as you're talking to your teammates and talking to folks that are reading this and reacting, to think about how it'll settle, how it's gonna fall on the students.
So this, excuse me, the student lessons actually have scenarios in them, which cause them to interact with different parts of this document. And of course, it's very strategically, which very strategic, I will say, which pieces we want them to interact with. So having conversations about the code of conduct and telephones, right? We have outfits from Monday to Friday, and then there's Saturday and Sunday, and are they all appropriate for Monday to Friday? And just little subtle conversations like that. Cell phones out of sight, out of mind until you're out of the building, unless it's used for instructional purposes, and that is the conversation that the school building principal will have. But we're going to allow them to interact with the document so that they can have discussion around it as well, because we want to hear what they're thinking, because they may offer some information that we haven't thought about. But the more important piece is just to listen to them and to hear their thoughts around Monday to Friday and then Saturday, Sunday, and just learning that distinction. So is that right outfit for Monday, or could we wear that on Saturday?
And I agree with everything that Dr. Joyner said, Trustee Lewis, but we also have to walk that very tight line of making sure that we don't body shame anyone either. And so we also want to leave the code of conduct open for applicability depending on the grade level, depending on who's dressing, whether we're dressing ourselves or are we being sent to school in these clothes, right? So those conversations also have to happen. So I believe that this current iteration of the document allows for those nuances.
I agree. This document is absolutely beautifully organized. I had a question on page 19 in the behavior intervention responses. For tier 3, I see that it is an intensive intervention mode. Perhaps this is too soon to ask, but just wondering, will the parents be involved at that level? Just in a greater conversation.
The answer is absolutely yes.
Okay.
Starting tier 2, actually, we would
Okay.
involve families and begin to have conferences with families. But tier 3, definitely, because they're wraparound services and supports that parents would have to give permission for and be a part of. Because at that point, the level of intervention is very intense, and we want to make sure that we support both the student and the family. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
Williams?
Thank you, Dr. Joyner, and to your team for this document. I really appreciate having the crosswalk where you showed the original and the revised, and also putting in bold added things like the subheadings. It makes the document very readable, and it's easy to find the information you're looking for. And also the civility statement, I think that this is a statement that we need in these times. And I really appreciate that in the civility statement that the team developed, um, they referenced that the City School District of New Rochelle intends to foster a culture and practice of civility in all schools. So as we're going along, we'll determine what that looks like and what that really means, because this is a living document, but this is the starting place. And I really appreciate that you added actually all of the stakeholders in our district. It is the expectation of the Board of Education and district leadership, those are stakeholders in our district, that mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct among district employees, families, students, and visitors are cultivated at all times when engaging with one another within our school district and in the greater community. Because many times in the codes of conduct is about student conduct, but it's not adult to adult conduct. So we need that. A school district is like a family. So everyone is important and we all have to respect each other. So thank you for putting that in, including all of our stakeholders.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Roberts.
My question is, so after 30-day public comment, how is the public comment reviewed and how do you determine any changes made?
So I actually started receiving comments, and we bring them all together. The committee is meeting tomorrow, actually. So the ones that we've received thus far, we will incorporate and then share, review and potentially incorporate, let me rephrase.
Mhm.
And then there are some little things, like somebody saw a mistake and we're like, that type of change we
Yeah.
would make immediately. But we will review, take it back to committee, and potentially incorporate.
Perfect. And in the current code of conduct, the last page you had a graph like community resources, and I didn't see it in the new one. I was just wondering why that determination was made.
So we are in the process of gathering, that's what I spoke about, this MTSS committee for behavioral and SEL. So they are going to create a list of resources that we will be able to distribute to schools for support. So it will be there, but we're in the process of looking through it,
Yeah.
updating, and making sure that it's relevant and those organizations are still providing support to our young people. So it will be, but it just won't be in the code, but we will have it.
Gotcha.
I am extremely impressed at the just like the level of revision in this. And I really appreciate particularly page 13, the guide for students. This is so comprehensive, and I would love to see it turned into some sort of a graphic or icons, like pictorial, so that it can be even more accessible, particularly because some students might not yet be reading at the level of the way this code of conduct is written. It's extremely comprehensive, but I even recognize that in some of the language, because we want students themselves to own this, to read this, to understand this. The last thing we want is for students to go to be punished and not understand why. So we want them to have the ownership, even in like the rights and the responsibilities. Beautiful, clear language, but even that, like putting it into, and I think this stays what it is. This is one piece of a puzzle. I would hope to see like one pagers that put it into more concise language that are student friendly. I also just want to appreciate the considerations for pre-K through second and understanding what a unique age that is for early childhood as our students are developing. I also appreciate all the photographs they're not stock images, like they're real staff, real students, real superintendent in the photos. That actually says something, that means something, that contributes to the sense of identity for our district, and I really appreciate that. Um, and then I also just wanted to mention quickly that I see what students should do here if they have, if they're being bullied or know someone's being bullied. But I think families also might benefit from having a similar page. So often a parent might want to immediately, oh, I heard my child, they came from the school, they said this, and they might want to go directly to the principal. I'll channel Mr. Mealy for a second, who every year gets up in front of the families at orientation and says, talk to your child's teacher first. Yes. Like, not everything should go directly to the level of a principal or a superintendent. So I wonder if it would be helpful to have another page here, like the guide for families, for caregivers, so that they know how to address it, because it is so hard for any of us who know as parents or neighbors or godparents, aunties, uncles. When we see our child suffer, we suffer, and we want to do something about it. So what are the proper channels in the district, some guidance for families, that are not like, oh, I'm gonna show up at my child's school ready to talk to that child, right? Like we might want to spell it out too, because this guide for students step by step is extremely explicit. I would love to see also a one pager for families. Is your child being bullied? Do you need assistance with personal problems? Because yes, when we teach a child, we work with the family. Does your child need assistance with academics? And just like helping empower our families as partners in our learning. So I'm extremely appreciative. It's beautifully visually. The restorative practices explanations as well are such a powerful addition here. And even just the layout of it, it's much more easy. It's just much easier to follow. It's very clear. And I appreciate that it's being translated into so many languages as well. So thank you for all the work on this.
And thank you. And we will take that under advisement. When the committee meets this summer, we do have to create a summary for students, but we will put that side by side so that the students and families are on that page. So I look forward to sharing the summary upon completion. And thank you for that and some additional visuals.
I had one more question, tagging on to that page. I've witnessed firsthand, sometimes a student that is not my child or You know, you hear them talking. And then there's a whole level of confidentiality, especially when they get to the middle school and the upper grades, that just put them at a very stressful risk. So I know we're not dealing with that right now, but I just want to make sure we understand the sensibility of older kids and not using the word snitch. I mean, having sort of anonymous but truthful openness has got to be somewhere in that picture for the high school students, because they will, if they're outed and they don't have a support and they're on their own, we won't see a happy kid.
Thank you very much for that, Trustee Clayton. Please know that we do have an anonymous reporting system already enacted. It is quite heavily utilized in our district. We do get, and most of the administrators, if not all, get real-time notices when something is presented to us through that anonymous platform. And it is often redirected if there's not a response within minutes, if not within a half an hour or so. Colleagues who are administrators often redirect it to the person in the building in which it has taken place. And it also provides an opportunity for us to list to the most minute identification where it's occurred. Again, with the person remaining anonymous, we can't track it. It's not linked to anybody's email account. So this is an opportunity for people to share with us in real time their concerns so that we can address it or look for patterns.
Just one quick question, and I apologize if it's been brought up, but this is a pretty dense document for school kids. It's probably pretty dense for parents as well. I know you said you're going to review it twice a year. Has there been any conversation or discussion? I think someone started this to condense it or to make it a little bit easier for students to use it as a guide or a reference to look back, a little bit more age appropriate to all students.
Absolutely. I have a copy of the summary, actually, from the previous document. We're going to create something similar. I won't say it'll be exactly the same, but we are creating a summary. That summary is for students and families. So the students will interact with certain parts of the document, but they will all receive a summary, as will the families. So it's a lot less reading, but the important parts that we will lift from this document that all families and students should be aware of.
Do any other of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda for discussion is, it's going to be a short one. It's about naming the planetarium after a former district employee or kind of current district employee. We received a letter from a teacher at New Rochelle High School, and I'm going to read the letter for you all. Dear Mr. Iannuzzi and the Board of Education of New Rochelle, my name is Bruno Duarte, and I am an alumnus of the New Rochelle High School's class of 1994. I student taught at New Rochelle High School and presented in my 25th year, and presently in my 25th year of teaching at New Rochelle High School. Throughout my 30 years at New Rochelle High School, I've been fortunate to have been taught by some of the most knowledgeable teachers, had the most motivating mentors, been led by some of the most strongest leaders, and have worked with some of the most inspiring colleagues. Yet there is one name that stands out from this very long list. His name is Bruce Zeller. I have spoken to countless alumni, not just from my class, but from other classes, and I have discussed with many current and former colleagues. As soon as the name Bruce Zeller comes up, everyone smiles and shares a favorite story. Bruce Zeller timeline and accomplishments are, in 1982, he started working for the New Rochelle School District at Isaac E. Young as a general science teacher. In 1988, he moved to New Rochelle High School during the reorganization of the middle school and high school. In 1995, he took over the direction of the planetarium. In 1996, he was an integral part of the first planetarium upgrade. In 2005, he was an integral part of the second planetarium upgrade. In 2015, he started free monthly shows which are open for the community. Some words from Steve Goldberg. He has developed a loyal following that faithfully attend these shows and openly display their appreciation for the service he provides. His enthusiasm and love of astronomy keeps the audience coming back for future events. Through the years, he has enhanced his presentations with complimentary musical selections. In 2018, Mr. Zeller was an integral part of the third planetarium upgrade. And in 2021, he retired after 39 wonderful years of teaching for the school district of New Rochelle. He wanted to teach until he had a student say, "Oh, Mr. Zeller, my grandmother had you." In his retirement, he is still working and running the planetarium. He has done over 100 shows for teachers in New Rochelle High School. In December, he does 4 holiday shows for the community. The Season of Light has become a respective tradition in New Rochelle. Alumni and staff members look forward to him bringing their own kids to these shows. Steve Goldberg reflected in the annual holiday show using the planetarium projector Irving. Bruce provides explanations of the seasons, the phases of the moon, and the winter solstice. The elementary schools take field trips to the planetarium as well as some of the private/religious schools. The school district is fortunate to have a state-of-the-art planetarium, and Bruce is honored to be the director. When Bruce retired in 2021, Steve Goldberg wrote, in addition to his teaching 4 astronomy classes during the day, Bruce designs presentations for the earth science classes. Many of the elementary and middle schools return annually for trips to the planetarium too. A dedicated professional, Bruce has taken summer courses on astronomy and has made presentations at science conferences. Although he retires on June 30th, Bruce will return next year as the part-time director of the planetarium, continuing to make community presentations and providing professional development for earth science and astronomy teachers. It is an absolute honor to write this letter for someone who has done so much for the New Rochelle community and still continues to do so. I'm not alone when I state that I have many wonderful memories of being in his class, and more importantly, meaningful memories of bringing my own kids to one of his shows. Bruce is not the type of person who seeks the limelight, but he was very honored and emotional when I told him that I would like to write to the board to get the planetarium named after him. If need be, I'm willing to fundraise the necessary funds to get a plaque created and placed in the entrance to the planetarium with his name once hopefully this gets approved. I believe that I've collected enough evidence to show Bruce Zeller's longstanding service to the district, outstanding contribution to the school and the district, significant contribution to the education of New Rochelle's youth, and the fact that he's an extraordinary educator and staff. So I just wanted to share this with the community that we received this letter, and I believe more letters will be coming from New Rochelle High School teachers, past students as well. And I wanted to share this letter with the board because based on board policy, we need to make a public announcement of when the board would want to even consider changing a facility. And then we have a 90-day waiting period. We can't make any decisions in 90 days, but it's a 90-day fact-finding mission where we receive community input and any other interested parties who want to write to the board. So this is not, we're not making a decision tonight. I just wanted to share what this was. And I do want to ask the community to please continue writing us if we would want to hear more from the community about this before any decision is made. But I want to thank Mr. Duarte for writing to the board, and I've had the pleasure to meet Mr. Zeller several times. I did not take planetarium at the high school, astrology, at the high school. I actually didn't know there was a planetarium when I was in New Rochelle High School, but I have had the pleasure to actually bring kids from my job to see planetarium shows. So I know it's such an amazing facility that we have, and it seems that Mr. Zeller is such a deserving individual of such a name. So colleagues, until another time, we'll put this on the agenda. We'll have a public comment period specifically for the naming of the planetarium. And hopefully, if we are able to move forward this, we should potentially have it ready for late September, early October. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this? All right, great. Next up on the agenda is liaison reports. Do any of my colleagues have any liaison reports they would like to make? Seeing none, we will move into the public comment period of the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of the meeting. The Board of Education adopted Policy 1230 in April 2022 to ensure all members of the public had the opportunity to speak at both of our board meetings each month. We believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, understand the board will not respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel and students. Please know, however, that we take your personal concerns very seriously. On these matters, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. Tonight, we've set aside 30 minutes for public comment, where each speaker who has signed up before 3:30 today has 3 minutes to speak. If a person requests to speak after 3:30, speakers may sign up in person at the meeting with our clerk and will be afforded the opportunity to speak. Our first speaker of the night is Mr. Patrick DeNigris.
Good evening. My name is Patrick DeNigris, as you said. I'm a student at the Huguenot Academy, and I'm finishing up my first year in the program. I'm here today to discuss the unjust movement of teachers from our campus to the main high school campus. There's been a lack of understanding among administration about the fundamental differences between Huguenot and the New Rochelle High School, and how these changes have a disproportionately negative impact on Huguenot students. I first learned about Huguenot Academy at a particularly difficult point in my life last year. My mother inquired about the program around December, but was shut down and told that Huguenot, quote, isn't for kids like him. This judgment was not based on who I am as a person, but rather by who I am on paper. Due to the fact that I had had previous academic successes, the question of whether or not I would benefit academically, socially, and emotionally from the Huguenot Academy program was not considered. Huguenot was finally shown to me as an option at the end of last year. What motivated me to switch to Huguenot was that I felt I wouldn't have to fear for my physical safety like I had to at the main campus. I felt that Huguenot was better equipped to assist me with any problems that could arise during the school year. The thing that struck me the most during my intake interview, though, and was ultimately the biggest factor in my decision to switch to Huguenot, was it was evident that I was cared for. It was apparent I was not just a number on a screen to them. And as I went through this year at Huguenot, all of this was proven to be true to me. In addition to this, the relationships I've been able to build with teachers are unlike those I've had in the past. I'd like to specifically highlight one of those teachers, Mrs. Van Voris. Mrs. V has been my teacher for AP US History, as well as a superior version of the government and economics class that she created herself called Contemporary American Society. She's been a wonderful teacher, going above and beyond to ensure that she does every possible thing that she can do to try and help her students succeed. What motivated me to create a petition that I did and to speak here today was my discovery that Mrs. V was set to be moved away from Huguenot after spending her entire time in the district here. This is problematic for many reasons, primarily because of the large changes that this creates in our community. Due to the small size of our school population and staff and our constant proximity, there is a difference in student-teacher relationships compared to the ones at New Rochelle High School. Moving any teachers at all, whether it be to split them between the two campuses or to move them full-time, is harmful to the interests of Huguenot students. After the years of disadvantages that Huguenot students have been put through, whether it be the complete lack of access to programs like PAVE or BOCES, students even being left out of parts of the yearbook, it is more than fair to come here today and ask that we at Huguenot Academy, stop having our priorities come last. Through all of this that students have had to deal with, the decision to move a teacher in a way that only benefits students at the high school is appalling. We demand not only that our teachers are not moved in a way that is disruptive to our community, but also that the interests of us students at Huguenot Academy are put on the same level as those at the main campus. We do not care how many times we have been told that we are of equal priority, because nobody at Huguenot will ever believe it when it is this evident that that is not true. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Niggers. Next up for public comment is Ms. Angelica Gael.
Okay, my name is Angelica Gel, and I am a parent and an employee of the district. And I'm here this evening to express my deep concern with the proposed unilateral staff changes at Huguenot Academy made solely by New Rochelle High School administrators for the 24-25 school year. Huguenot Academy is not a state-of-the-art facility like the main campus, Instead, we have many windowless classrooms, a windowless cafeteria. Our students do not have access to an art studio, graphic lab, nor do we have a gymnasium or workout room. Furthermore, we're still waiting for the fire protection blankets while the district locates a forever home that includes a fully secured entrance and intercom buzzers for visitors. In other words, Huguenot Academy is separate from the main campus, but not yet equal. What we do have are a small band of superb teachers who consciously made a decision to teach at the district's alternative high school. Our teachers intentionally build and sustain relationships of trust with students, and they differentiate instruction. Therefore, the transfer of one of our beloved social studies teachers in the fall is a devastating loss for Huguenot Academy. This past Friday, a Huguenot Academy student received a $1,000 scholarship from the New Rochelle New Rochelle Council of Community Services. In a heartfelt speech witnessed by our board president, our student thanked Mrs. V because of her encouragement, which helped her sign her name to the scholarship application. The same can be said for our new PE teacher who bonded well with our students in less than 1 year. Coach JP has revitalized our PE program in a way that maximizes our limited indoor hallway space. In spite of not having a gym, students look forward to PE because of Coach JP. Like Mrs. V, Coach JP will not return to Huguenot Academy in the fall. Furthermore, our art and Italian teachers will split their instructional day between Huguenot Academy and the main campus in September. In addition to providing students with the high-quality instruction, both Mrs. M and Mr. G provide a safe, nurturing space for students during morning arrival, lunch, and prep periods. Please be advised that this is the second year New Rochelle High School administrators force a transfer of staff from Huguenot Academy and swap a teacher from New Rochelle High School who did not choose Huguenot Academy on their own accord. I would hate to think that the instructional needs of students at the main campus supersede the instructional needs of Huguenot Academy students. But this is what this staff changes communicate to us, that our students are less deserving. These staff changes create a disruptive and unstable learning environment for many students who did not have experience or success at the main campus. Our country recently marked the 7th anniversary of Brown versus BOA. Still, the ugly legacy of separate and not equal continues to manifest in New Rochelle. Please show us that Huguenot Academy students truly matter to our board, to our administrators, to our entire community by rescinding the unilateral decision made by New Rochelle High School administrators. Please stop splitting Huguenot Academy teachers between 2 buildings in the fall, and please allow Mrs. V and Coach JP to remain at Huguenot Academy with the grand gratitude for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Vincent Malfitano. I do not see him here, though. We'll move on to Ms. Brenda DiGiacomo.
Okay, I'm sorry. That made me a little emotional because everyone knows me. Huguenot Academy touches my heart in so many ways. Hello, my name is Brenda DiGiacomo. There is so much I want to say, but first of all, I got to thank all our teachers and staff for all you do for all our students. We have amazing teachers. Now at Huguenot Academy and trying to change everything over the last few years, we've been through enough. Our kids can't handle much more. Our kids went and interviewed 3 to 4 gym teachers last year. Then they had to fill out a survey. Okay, we have this gym teacher only 2 periods. So why can't we still keep him for the 2 periods? It makes no sense. You're making so many changes that are affecting our kids' life, which we need to make our kids' life better. Huguenot Academy already got a bad name. They say it's for all bad students, but for instance, we have one student that is amazing, well, a bunch, but one who did way and beyond through this year. In 11th grade, he even did a college essay and presented it. Do you guys worry what our kids will feel knowing we only have one counselor and how these teachers interact with our kids? Go there one day, check out and see the relationship our kids have with our students. When a kid don't feel safe in the lunchroom or had a bad day and don't want to be bothered, where are they? They're with their teachers during their lunch. You guys say we're part of New Rochelle High School? Well, at the award ceremony on June 7th, only 7 of our students got awards. That is pathetic. When a lot of our kids put a lot of work, but not enough people put enough effort to realize what our students are doing over there. Then we have one security guard who had a disagreement with another student and now left our campus to go to the high school. We have one child that takes a bus, has to cross 3 lanes before the bus aide gets out and help him. Do you guys realize we're on Huguenot Street? That's a busy road. Those cars turn in the corner. They don't care about that bus. What if that kid get hit? The security guard that wanted to be switched out was a security guard who risked her life to cross that boy across the street. And I witnessed numerous of times how she almost got hit by a car. But now we don't have her no more over one bad seed. I asked for us to bring New Rochelle High School and Huguenot Academy together, but not take our teachers away. We need to work together as one community, one school, and we need to make our children safe at Huguenot Academy just as well as they are at the high school. Please leave our students the way they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Next up is Miss Miriam Dasim.
Thanks. Wow, I feel taller than this. Good evening, Miriam Dasim. I actually attended that meeting at the alternative school. I don't like calling it Huguenot Academy because that was Goldberg's way of window dressing the school, and there wasn't a whole lot of input about why to call it that. That was one. Secondly, when we attended that meeting, Dr. Artiles was there, Valerie Simkin from the high school were there, but the director of the program wasn't there. And I think that is something that we need to understand, who we put in that program as a director, what qualified her, because that person was just placed there. And this is the second time that we've had an important meeting, and she didn't find it important enough to attend it. The last time was orientation when the kids did not have a school, and they were doing an orientation in the evening hours. No one was there. There was a social worker there to welcome parents and students. So that's that. The other thing was, the main thing there was, it's only going to be a couple of kids that these teachers would be teaching. But we have 60 kids in that school, so I don't understand what changed, since that's probably what those teachers were teaching before. So why is it such a problem now that the fact that they only are teaching 1 or 2 kids? We know that they're going to teach a small number of kids. Why is that such a problem now? What changed from last year to this year? That brings me back to our budget when we talked about we have 22 new special ed positions, 33 people was let go, or not let go, but left, and all of that. We don't clearly understand who are all of these positions, and now what we see is it's impacting Huguenot Academy because you need to bring more teachers over because you've only replaced special ed teachers. In my head, that's what I'm hearing. So we need to clarify that. And the commitment to, as this young man just said, understand that you have that school for a smaller program. So yeah, the teachers aren't going to have a lot of kids. That doesn't mean that you get to take them and bring them to the high school at will, because it does impact them, as you're hearing. So if we're going to make the commitment to the school as we have, then we need to go ahead and make the commitment to the fact that you're going to have some very small classes, but they have other roles that they play there for the kids. Not to mention, of course, that location we all know is substandard in so many ways, and this only highlights some of the problems there. So that's about all of my time. Thank you to Dr. Joyner, because twice I've seen that she's incorporated things that we've talked about, multi-language of the surveys, and then she just mentioned something else now I just forgot, but I hear her listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dasim. Next up is Ms. Sarah Farley.
No, it's not Sarah. That's Lourdes.
Okay. All right, not seeing her. Next up is Dr. Carla Wilbright.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Dr. Carla Woolbright, resident of New Rochelle for 32 years and counting. I'm here to to add my voice in opposition to charter schools coming into New Rochelle. I'm acutely aware of the longstanding discrepancies in academic achievement between Black and Brown students and their white peers. We have engaged in several discussions over the years to address these disparities, and I can honestly state that New Rochelle is on the right path to address these concerns, and those concerns of well-meaning parents who want more for their children. There is more of an effort to hire teachers, administrators, and staff that are more reflective of our student population, and I have seen the district being more intentional in addressing curriculum concerns, resulting in more attention to what and how our children are being taught. Yet the disparities must be addressed. Charter schools are not the answer. Charter schools are in reality private schools that utilize public funding. They say students are chosen on the lottery system, but we know that this is a self-selected process because only the more motivated parents will even make the effort to fill out the charter school application. You are encouraged to Google the most recent charter school applying to come to New Rochelle, Capital Prep, and learn how their Harlem school is under investigation. The Co-op City Bronx School is without a principal for the better part of the year, with police and Co-op City security often call to the school at dismissal. And the Connecticut campus is facing academic challenges, as are most of the other charter schools at this time. Unlike a private school, our tax money, which could be millions of dollars, follows the student to the charter school and stays with the charter school, whether the student remains in that school for the entire year or not. The exiting student, many whom have behavioral, academic, or mental health concerns, or because the parent is disillusioned with the broken promises of the charter school, has to be accepted back into the public school, which has now been drained of necessary resources for that school year. The diversion of tax dollars to charter school will result in larger class sizes, reduction in school staff with less hired, first fired, fewer school resources, and less diverse student population. I'm opposed to our school taxes being used to fund charter schools in New Rochelle. We should focus our energy and resources to continuing to make the New Rochelle public school system better. I'm aware that our city council runs independently of the Board of Education, but we should all be on the same page in ensuring adequate resources for our students. I'm hearing about the Huguenot Academy, and that is including them, including tutorial, enrichment programs, job opportunities, and housing affordability. Those trying to push charter schools should use that same energy on behalf of all of our students and not just a select few. So I'm asking the Board of Education to use all of your resources to continue to educate the public on the threat to our public school system and to engage in conversations with the community at large on this serious situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilbright. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, this is basically the end of our meeting, and we do not have any votes for tonight. Our next meeting will be a special meeting held on Monday, June 24th at 6 p.m. It was originally for Tuesday, June 25th, but we changed it because the Isaac and Albert Leonard graduations are that morning. Colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting? Yes, Central Administration. Thank you, Miriam.
So moved, Williams.
Second, Ross.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.
You don't have to apologize. Brenda, you don't ever have to apologize.